Welcome everyone to Miniature Painting Fundamentals 2, and today we're going to talk about paints. Now, before I start this off, I know that there's fanboys out there that are going to love a certain product, and these are just my opinions and what I have tried and tested myself, and just from my own experiences. A couple of products that I talk about actually, I've never actually tried, so I just grabbed what was off of the merchant's website, and I talk about them a little bit here, and I don't get too much into the characteristics of the paints. And basically we're just going to go through certain lines of paints that I have and a couple that I don't, and we're going to talk about your cost and what are the pros and cons of certain types of paints that are on the market. So the first thing you're going to see here on screen is that I have two different types of bottles. Okay, Vallejo and Reaper use dropper bottles, and they usually tend to be in the size of about a half ounce, and they carry about the same amount of paint, which is about 17 milliliters. And the two on the right, you got P3 formula, which is made by Privateer Press, and some of the only Citadel paints that these are the last ones that I actually have and use, which is the foundation paints. I don't even use the washes anymore. And those are also in pots, and they're a little bit smaller than the P3, but we'll go into exactly what's in each of them. First thing we're going to talk about is the pros and cons between the pots versus the dropper bottles. And first we'll talk about the dropper bottles. Okay, so we'll move these pots off of here and talk exactly about what these dropper bottles are and why I think they're superior to the pots. This one needs to be cleaned, but that kind of shows you what the droppers look like. Okay, dropper bottles. We'll talk about the cons. Seriously, I could not think of anything bad about this type of paint container. There's so many good things about it, and by all means, if you think that there's something that's bad about these droppers, go ahead and comment and leave it on there. I might have missed something. I'm totally for dropper bottles, and this is why. Cons, I had none. Pros is they're spill proof. You get precise measurement of mixes because you can actually count drops, and for people that are painting and you're experimenting and mixing paints, I always say to keep a paint notebook, so that once you find a color that you like, you can refer back to it. Even dab a page in the notebook next to the color mix that you're writing in, and you can come back to it. And with pots, you kind of got to either use a pipette, or you got to try to dip your brush, the same brush every time, and count that. But it's just not as accurate as with the dropper bottle. They won't evaporate either, due to the twist on cap and the seal. If you keep these tips clean, the seal on the cap basically seals up against this flat part around the edge and keeps air from going in there. Also, if you're going to be storing them for a long time, storing them upside down will put material up against the tip and prevent air from getting in. If that was going to happen, depending on climate changes, in very hot areas, you might get these bloated bottles that are wanting to let some air out just because of the heat building pressure inside the bottles. So storing them upside down is your fail-safe if you're going to not be using any paints for a while. And pretty much they're a small footprint. If you look at them compared to the pretty much any pot that's on the market, they actually take up a lot less space when you look at them vertically compared to anything else. And if you end up investing in buying like one of the paint carousels from the War Store or something like that, the white ones, or the ones that Chris from AG Productions here on YouTube has all his paints on, you can actually fit more dropper bottles on that thing than you would the P3 or any of the GW pots. So that's what I got pretty much on the dropper bottles. So now we'll get into the pots and the pros and cons about that. So here we go, Adeptus Battle Gray, and we'll throw the AP3 paint in there. Actually, we'll use the sealed one because I don't really trust these to seal correctly. Anyways, All right, pots. The pros. Reaper and P3 fill these. They actually have more paint in them than the 17 milliliter bottles. It's just a little bit more, but it's still more. So we like more paint for our money, and usually they carry thicker formulas. Reading P3's site and Reaper's site about the pro paints is that they actually are formulated to have more pigment count in them to make them cover with less layers. And P3 I think they're a fantastic paint line, but again, not to get off topic, we'll get through these pros and cons, and then I'll talk specifically about each one. And let's see, that was pretty much it for the pros. The cons is they're not spill proof. Lids not cleaned or improperly secured will dry the paint out quicker. Guys that like to paint from the pot, that's a really bad habit, because you got to think of it as a perishable food. The longer you have it open, the more time it has to evaporate. And yeah, you can add water to it, and flow improver and stuff like that if you kept it open a little bit too long. But it's hard to match the consistency of one that you open fresh, so it's that's something that I really don't like about the pots, is it's the consistency is very erratic depending on your favorite colors, which ones you have open longer, stuff like that. Little pet peeves that I have. So now we're going to get into the actual paint lines. And the first up is, of course, Vallejo, which is my favorite. And we'll get the three different paint lines that I have. They actually have 4, and I don't have any of the other ones, but you'll find out why here in a minute. Okay, so we talk about Vallejo. They have 4 color lines, which total out to be 470 colors total in the Vallejo hobby line. They actually have like an arts and crafts line and other stuff like that, but we're going to talk about the hobby stuff because that's what we do. Every single one of their paints is encased in a 17 milliliter dropper bottle. Now the first paint that I have on here, and I'm going to talk about prices for each one of these different paints. I won't tell you the exact prices, but I'll tell you what the average is per milliliter. Now since these are all 17 milliliter, if you're trying to figure out what price is good for the stores that you're looking at, just multiply that times 17. I mean, they range anywhere from $2.45 to $2.99. So the first one we're going to talk about is Panzer Aces. Again, it's not shown here. And Panzer Aces was actually a team up of Vallejo and Panzer Aces magazine. And what it is it's a paint line that was developed by them just specifically for World War II tank crew colors. That's for flesh, their uniform colors. It's a very small paint line. It's the smallest they have. It's 48 colors, and it's military specific, and that's why I don't carry their line, because I don't really need military specific stuff. I mean, for my IG stuff, yeah, it'd probably be pretty cool, but that's more for the scale modeling guys that want to have their stuff matched exactly. And basically what I got from them is about 14 cents a milliliter for the price that I've seen online on average. So that keeps it pretty low on cost. Now the second line is or actually Model Air here. The Model Air is airbrush paint, and you guys hear me talk about it as far as their metallics, and the reason that I say their metallics are better than the other stuff that you might use unless you get specific like alcohol based metallics, which they called like liquid gold and stuff like that, is Vallejo actually formulated these in a special milling process. It contributes to these all the Model Air paints to having ultra fine pigment. It's about 10 times smaller than pigment that you have in the other Vallejo lines, as well as regular hobby paint like GW and P3. P3's pigment actually might be pretty small though, from reading on them. And the Vallejo Model Air line has 97 colors. Again, Vallejo catered to a lot of scale model guys, so you're going to see, if you take a look at the Model Air colors, a lot of them are catered towards military vehicles. So you're going to get a lot of browns, a lot of greens, grays, stuff like that. I mean, I like the grays if you're doing like Black Templars, or an army that's mainly black. If you want to find colors in there that are a little bit different than what you're seeing. I mean, models, we're so used to in the GW line of seeing models painted under the heavy metal style, and when someone uses a P3 paint on a model, it just totally pulls your eyes, like, oh, that's not a normal color that I'm used to seeing. What could it be? And you'll notice a lot of people, they'll use power weapons, and they'll use what is this? This is one of my favorite colors, arcane blue. They'll use that for like power weapons and stuff, and you really won't know what it is. He's just like, oh, I don't know what it is, but I like it. And that's something, a lot of people that are fans of GW paints and stuff, it's cool to have other paint lines, because they'll have colors that GW might not carry. Other artists know that their paint line is actually pretty limited compared to what's out there. But we'll continue on with the Vallejo stuff here. The Model Air stuff averages at about 17 cents per milliliter, which is 3 cents more than Panzer Aces. And but it's less specific. It's more for World War II vehicles versus World War II tank crew uniform colors. So we talk about model color. Again, this was designed for the scale model guys, so it's historically accurate paint to match up with the tanks and stuff of history. And it's the biggest range that Vallejo carries at 220 colors. It is a vinyl based, and the Model Air and the game color are resin based, and I don't know really how that affects it physically for like painting and coverage and stuff. I don't see any big differences between these paints, except for Model Air, like metallics are way superior. You don't get that glitter effect as shown in the 13th Company tutorial. So the Model Air is, again, just like Panzer Aces, it's at about 14 cents per milliliter, and it's pretty good stuff. I mean, their paint line, a lot of greens, a lot of blues, grays, earth tones and stuff like that. Not a lot of bright stuff that we're used to seeing in the GW line and fantasy paint lines. And then we got the game color, which I'm always using in my paint tutorials. These are the GW clones, and they include the out of production colors that GW no longer makes. So all you guys that might be carrying GW paints and the stuff from Coated Arms, just to have your chestnut ink and certain things that are done. You guys from Slanesh, you guys are probably already for your Slanesh armies, they don't have what is it, tentacle pink or squid pink. They don't carry that anymore. So you probably already found something, whether it was in the Reaper line or you went to Vallejo. That's originally why I went to Vallejo game colors, because GW started discontinuing colors that I needed. And this line's it's 105 colors. Again, it's resin based, and this averages out at about 15 cents per milliliter. So it's not the cheapest, but it's definitely cheaper than the Model Air paints, which are a little bit more specific. And the Model Air, the thing about this is that these, if you've seen the video on advanced paint techniques that I did, and I kind of brushed over airbrush stuff, and we'll go through an airbrush tutorial here that I have planned, and talk about fundamentals on that. But these two have to be thinned. They're too thick. Model Air, you can use it directly from the bottle. Just give it a couple shakes, squirt it into the airbrush, and the pigments are formulated, and that's why they're so fine, is to make sure that they don't clog the airbrush. And it's fantastic. I love this stuff, and it's my favorite stuff to use. That's usually what I'm priming with. For all you people wondering what I prime with, I actually use this Model Air Gray Primer. Now, I'm not sure if that's actually a primer or if that's the color of Gray Primer. It's very confusing, but I do use this as a primer, and haven't had any problems with it. So that pretty much talks about all the Vallejo colors that I have, the cheapest being Panzer Aces and Model Color. Third is Game Color at 15 cents a milliliter, and the most expensive of the four is going to be your Model Air, which is at 17 cents per milliliter. So moving on to P3. Now P3, let's grab a couple more of these for visual purposes, just so we got something on screen here. let's see, P3 comes in 18 milliliter pots, and they like to fill these. And some of you guys that have been playing with GW stuff for a while kind of notice these are people that have coated arms. It's pretty much the same pot, the old pots. When people talk about the old GW pots, that's what they talk about, is these, and they're fantastic compared to the new GW ones. And it's actually a softer lid, and I think it conforms to the lip better, which actually makes it not dry as fast as the other pots out. So, you know, that's the whole GW conspiracy with me, that they're designing pots to dry your paints out and all that good stuff. So here we go. About P3, made by Privateer Press. They formulated these to have extended drying time. So if you need to do wet blending and stuff like that, I haven't tried to wet blend with these, but we'll see. And I'm actually going to do an on-camera test so that you guys can check for yourselves. Is they actually say that it has liquid pigment that never separates, right? And they're highly pigmented, so that they cover pretty good. In their color line, they have 72 colors total, and on average they're at about 15 cents per milliliter, which is still good. Model color and Panzer Aces of Vallejo still win it by 1 cent, but pretty much these are hard to beat. They're good for the price. You're not getting robbed. It's, you know, when you see a couple of cents in between milliliters, that's not bad. When you see a jump, which we'll get to next, is when you go, whoa, that's almost double the price per milliliter. So here I got 2 of these. I'll grab the blue one. Or actually, we'll do Thrall Flesh. I don't think I've mixed these or anything. And we're just gonna open this fresh pot to see if we can see any paint separation, right? Because P3 says that these are formulated to not separate. So we're just gonna rip this lid open here, take a look inside, see if we can see some paint separation. So P3, you're on the spot right now, and let's see, what do we got there? Not as bad. I mean, you might see some little swirls in there, but paint separation is, you know, big on a lot of other colors, like the Vallejo metallics, the Model Air metallics. They'll be blue on the top, and you won't even know why. You look at a silver paint and wonder why it's blue on top until you shake it and all turns silver. So when you look at it, I mean, I did have it sitting on its side, but basically you just don't want the pigment sitting on the bottom. And nope, everything looks pretty good. I mean, you could probably do like about 1 shake and this thing would be good to go. But separates a little bit. I wouldn't say it does not separate, but pretty good compared to some of the other paints that I've opened up. So that's it for P3. Now we're going to talk about Reaper. I don't have any of the Reaper products, so I'm just going to go through them really quick, and I'm going to stick up the next product just so you guys know what we're about to get into. Alright, and I'm just going to put up the foundations because these are the only paints that I have from GW. Alright, so talking about Reapers, both of their lines, the Master and Pro line, it's about 324 colors total, so that makes them the second largest paint range that's out to the market. And let's see, their Master line is in droppers, half-ounce droppers, which is, you know, the same thing as the model color and stuff like that, but they hold about 17 milliliters. I didn't see on Reaper's site exactly how many milliliters were in there. They just say half-ounce. And their Master line, which you see Mini Wargaming plug all the time, it has 216 colors in that line. Again, I haven't used it, so the only thing good I can say about it is that they come in droppers. Their Pro line has 108 colors, so it's half the amount of colors in the Master series. They come in 3/4 ounce pots. Now, to give you an idea, these P3 pots are half ounce, and they hold 18 milliliters. So 3/4, you'd think, you know, probably about 27 milliliters, or at least I hope they would have that much if they're using 3/4 ounce pots. And they're also formulated to coat in just, you know, a couple coats, even over black primer. So I've never used them, so you guys that have Reaper Pro paints, tell me if I'm wrong or right. You know, be the objective person out there that says, yeah, look, I have both Reaper lines and this is how they are compared to these. So that's pretty much all I have to say about Reaper. Reaper Master, I got a price on that, and that's about 14 cents per milliliter, so that makes it one of the lowest, right up next to Model Color and Panzer Aces. So again, Reaper's not trying to rob you, they're doing a good job. Now we're gonna jump into Citadel. Now, if you guys checked out the GW website, and pretty much anyone else, I got the prices directly from them, and it doesn't matter if you get the Citadel paint, foundation, or washes, they're all $3.70 a piece. What does this round down to? 30 cents a milliliter. Now the reason it's like that is because all the other paints before them that we reviewed carry more pigment or more paint than they do, the lowest being 17 milliliters. GW pots only carry 12, so they charge, it ends up being 30 cents a milliliter because they actually charge more per bottle and give you less product for it. And just for an example, if you bought like the foundation paint set, which is what I did, they charge you, it drops the price to about $3.20, and that rounds out to being about 26 cents a milliliter, and that's still, you know, almost twice. The highest was Model Air, which was 17 cents a milliliter, and the price that I got was from the War Store again. It was, you know, $2.99, I believe. So even like $3.20, I mean, it's a big difference. I mean, yeah, it's $3 versus $3.70, but you know, you're getting 17 mils versus 12, and it makes a difference. So you know, you think about what you're getting for your money, and if you can get GW clones. I mean, I only carry foundations because I haven't tried out the Vallejo foundations. They're double or super opaques yet, and I like to follow what the white dwarfs and, you know, basically paint recipes that GW puts out, because for commission painting, customers like to use a lot of those recipes. So I use the game color as my equivalent for GW colors, and then I still use the foundation paints to do coverage over certain things. And pretty much, I mean, that's it. I mean, the most expensive paints that we reviewed today are the GW paints. They're the worst. I mean, they're a good product. I don't really think any of the products that I have are better than the other. I mean, yeah, Model Air is good if you're spray painting or, you know, using the airbrush and stuff like that. It's good to go immediately in there, but I'll airbrush with all these paints, and using them with a brush like most of you people are is, you know, I don't really see a difference. I don't say, oh, GW's crap. I mean, I don't like their containers and stuff, and I really do think that they're designed to dry your paints out, but you know, that's just my personal experience. I mean, I've had new paints that I've never opened, that I opened them up and they're almost like clay. It's ridiculous, and never had that problem with the dropper bottles. So far, I mean, with quality of paint aside, if they were all the same quality, still you're spending more money and getting less product with the GW products, every single one of them, in their paint lines. And the best buy for your money is going to be Reaper, P3, pretty much anyone else except for GW. The P3, Reaper, and Vallejo lines are all cheaper, and you get more. Bonus for me and anyone else who's thinking about mixing their paints is dropper bottles. And so you got Reaper. P3 doesn't carry it, but what they have is they have a totally different paint line than GW. So if you want to expand your palette of colors and don't want to get too much into mixing your different paints, carrying a whole nother line like P3 or Reaper would expand that greatly and give you, you know, more options for, oh, you know, I like this red, but, you know, I wish it was darker. You know, you probably find the equivalent in some other line. So I hope this helps you out as far as, you know, guys getting back into the hobby, or people that are, you know, getting to the points where they need to restock their paints, of, you know, what to look at. And always look at the milliliters that you're getting, and, you know, divide the price by the milliliters. So, you know, $2.99 for this, and then you divide it by 17 milliliters, as it says right there, and that'll give you, you know, the price per product. I mean, people that do grocery shopping, they do it all the time, you know, and price per item inside the box. So if you have like, you know, 6-pack or a 12-pack of sodas or something and you're wondering what you're paying for them, you can figure it out. So that's pretty much all I have to say about the paints I have. Again, these are just my opinions. So that's all I got right now, and I'll see you in the next Paint Fundamentals.